identification lead. These are the 3 leads I want you to know for now. And there's more, as you're going to see in the reading if you haven't already. Immediate identification lead. You reveal the subject, the person who's involved, person or people, right in the first sentence. Usually prominence has to figure into that. So he would be named typically, right, for the lead. Celebrities, for instance, here's an example. Los Angeles Lakers star Kobe Bryant will wait until Monday to make a decision on whether to have season-ending surgery on his torn right rotator cuff. Okay, names that subject right there, Kobe Bryant, right in the lead, first sentence. Okay, delayed identification lead, probably the most common lead we will use for the type of writing we'll be doing in this class. Maybe not, but probably. That's why I asterisk it. It's important type of lead. It withholds the who in the lead. Withholds the who. Okay, because it's usually not a celebrity. It's not a prominent person. And we want to know about the what more specifically. So here is an example. A teen accused of luring his 13-year-old girlfriend on a 1,300-mile crime spree while eluding police tearfully entered a courtroom and pled not guilty to a multitude of charges. And then it goes on to identify them in the next sentence. Okay, this is that famous case where they're supposedly youthful Bonnie and Clyde, but they haven't killed anyone, so it's not really a comparison. But it doesn't mention their names. It's a delayed identification lead. And then finally, a summary lead combines tries to combine the key W's and H in the first sentence. Okay, it tries to combine the key W's and H in the first sentence. And there's usually a summary feel to it. So something that's a big event with a lot of facets, or a speech, like the State of the Union address, would be a good example. You could find a lead. And here is an example. President Barack Obama used his annual State of the Union address to tout a surging economy, propose a slate of new programs, and pitch a huge redistribution of wealth in the form of tax increases aimed at upper-class Americans. Okay, you see there's a, comma this he did, comma this he's talked about, and comma this he talked about. It's a summary. So this is also a very common lead that we will see again. Okay, so those are the 3 most important leads really for this class, but there are some other leads we might get to, but not necessarily as much as these 3. Okay, going back to that sheet. Are there any questions about this so far, by the way? I haven't asked that. Okay. All right, so going back to that sheet, turn the, yeah, it's the same side. No, turn it over. Turn it over. All right. Number 6, let's write your first lead for this class for not the feature, but in-class leads. Here are the facts for short news story. Decide what's important to write the story. Let's look at page 54. Editing. All right, so editing. I'm trying to get you to kind of be your own editor. When I give you corrections, you go back and what kind of was a joint venture, I guess. You go back and you correct them, okay? And that is a good practice for newsrooms. You will have some editors who'll just go in and I'll just do it. The problem is the student or the junior reporter doesn't really learn anything. So ideally, the editor gives the reporter corrections. Could you do it this way? Could you do it that way? Maybe write some things on the draft. And then the reporter corrects the mistakes or the issues that need to be corrected. But you see, from the very beginning of the process, the editor is involved, right in the bottom of page 54. And so you want a good relationship with your editor if you are a reporter, not adversarial. All right. Okay, how much editing does it need? Let's do that, but not right this second. We'll come back to that. All right. Page 56. News writing style. This is a really good explanation for when we're talking about style. You could say news writing style in general, like you have inverted pyramid style, you have the what, when, where, why, how, you have that at the beginning. You could be talking about that. But in this page is talking about the type of style that dictates things like capitalization, abbreviations, punctuation, in order to be consistent from writer to writer, article to article, newspaper edition to edition. Okay, so we care about style, and most newspapers have certain style guidelines that they use in order to keep that consistency. Okay, so these are rules that govern things that could otherwise sort of be subjective in how you do them. There could be more than one way. So things like caps, what's capitalized, abbreviations, which I'll abbreviate, punctuation, which I also. But there is a book, the AP, the Associated Press Style Book, and the formal name is the Associated Press Style Book and Briefing on Media Law. There's a little section in the book about, law issues that would pertain to reporters. Okay, so AP style is what this is called. In English, you had MLA style, right? Do you remember what that stood for, MLA? But it's a Modern Language Association, right? And that is the style that dictates that. Chicago style is one common in sociology that we use with footnotes and so forth. Okay, so AP style is the one we use for news, and it stands for Associated Press. Associated, get that other S in there, Press style. Now, remember that the Associated Press is really two things, right? It's the same organization. The first one we commonly think of as Associated Press is it is a newswire service, meaning it's a cooperative of reporters. They have their own reporters, but they also might reprint members, newspapers, reporter stories. But they send out reporters all over the world. They write articles, right? And so you can be a subscriber and reprint these articles in your newspaper. And even campus newspapers, you see that in. The student newspapers, they do that because you can't send reporters all over the world. It's too expensive to do that for most newspapers. But they also oversee the style book that comes out every year or so. It's usually probably more like every 2 years or 3 years. And they, they'll change the little things in it. It kind of looks like a dictionary. See in the bottom, page 56? This is how the entry looks. Days of the week. What do I do with days of the week? Do I abbreviate them? Do I capitalize them? You would look it up under D, and then you would see that's what you do. Capitalize them. Do not abbreviate except when needed in a tabular format. So you're making a table, it's okay then, but usually you do not abbreviate days of the week in newspapers. So remember that AP style, they govern the rules, but they're also a news cooperative, okay, with subscribers, newspapers subscribe to them, reporters are sent all over the world, then you can reprint the stories. All right, so that is a very good question on the test I might ask, and students sometimes don't remember because they may have not written it down or thought that I was serious about that it would be on the test, but it often is. All right, so now you see on page 56 there's a column there in the middle, and those are kind of little funny things, who would have thunk it sort of stuff. But on page 57, this will be your AP style book. If you're not moving on in journalism, this is what you need to refer back to in the exercises we're about to do. So let's look at some more important ones. So on page 50, if you have a highlighter, go and grab that. If not, I would try to asterisk some things because these are the most important things, and I find myself constantly write on students' paper, AP style, AP style. When I say that, AP style, I may have already done that, by the way, on your paper, I don't know. But you need to look that up, okay? It's probably on this page. If it's not on this page, it's pretty easy to look it up online without being a member of the, but you can find the AP rules, the style rules by, just earlier I was like, how do you punctuate a state name in a sentence when there's the city and then the state? Do you put a comma after the state name? Yes, because you set it off. But I was like, students don't do that. Maybe I'm wrong. Well, I looked it up, and in fact, the AP style, I was able to find it on the blog. Somebody had written that exact question. I just started the question, and it was there. So, all right. These are some of the things that you will need to kind of memorize, or at least to have good awareness of where you can find this out. The very first one, number. Spell out 1 through 9. But there's exceptions. Spell out 1 through 9, then go up to figures for 10 and up, meaning write the number, 1, 0, 10. If a sentence begins with a numeral, either spell it out or rewrite the sentence. Next one, always use numerals for ages. So even someone younger than 10, you're going to use a numeral for that, the number 8. So those first two, you basically want to memorize those. But write percents, not percent, not two separate words, or the symbol. Okay, so we do not use the symbol percent, but we do, in the next one, use the symbol for dollars. Okay, we don't use the symbol for cents. We spell out the word cents if the amount is under $1. Do you see that? See, that sounds contradictory. Another big one, though, you definitely want to know the dollars one and the percent one. First one of titles, very important. Titles generally are capitalized only. Okay, only. Students tend to want to capitalize everything. Think of it this way. Newspapers, we like to save the ink. You wouldn't think, well, it's just a little letter. Well, that's a good way to remember that they're cheapskates. So they will save on ink if we don't have to capitalize as much, right? There's the lowercase is less ink. Okay, second one. Capitalize common nouns when they're part of the full name of a person. So similar to the other thing, like titles. Republican Party, Dixon Lake, Benson Boulevard. In other references, the nouns are not capitalized if they stand alone. So if we're getting the full title of something, like the Department of Communications and Persuasion and Media and Persuasion, James Rogers Department, then all that would be capitalized, right? But if it's just, I'm in the communications department, if it's just kind of casual, you don't need to capitalize that. My major is, my emphasis is media. My emphasis is visual communication. That doesn't need to be capitalized. Okay. All right, so if it's a full title, especially for a person or place, capitalize. If it's just part of it, then we do not. Okay, skip down to the last two in the abbreviations. When using a month with a specific date, abbreviate Jan, Feb, Aug, Sept, Oct, Nov, and Des. Okay, the longer ones you abbreviate. If there's a date with it, if there's a number of the December 2007. Okay, but it's DC period 14 2008. Do you see that? That's a big one. Students miss that. Okay, spell out the names of all states when they stand alone. Another one. When things stand alone, it looks weird if they're abbreviated, so we like to spell them out. Okay, 8 states are never abbreviated. Alaska, Hawaii, Idaho. Aw. Very, very careful. We don't like most postal codes. So you do abbreviate at other times.
You have to abbreviate.
Yes, same thing with street names. Okay. We want the whole, I'm going to go down to Main Street. So you spell it S-T-R-E-E-T. I need to go to 234 Main Street. You then abbreviate streets. Okay, addresses. Next section there. The first 3 you really want to know. And I just mentioned it. Abbreviate street, avenue, and boulevard when they're used with a specific address. So 1, 2, 3, 4, del ST period, but spell them out otherwise. Okay, always use the figures for the address number, meaning, physically write out 1, 2, 3, 4, the numerals, if it's an address number. Spell out 1st through 9th if they're street names, then go to figures after that. So 10th Street, 10th Avenue. Very good questions. Okay, possessives. Do you see in the next column? Make sure you understand possessives. Okay. Look at the middle one. For singular common nouns ending in S, add apostrophe S unless the next word begins with S. That's a funny one because it's so complex. So the waitress's order book. So we do have apostrophe S. Okay, but look, if the next word is sugar, the waitress's sugar. Okay, so those are ones you want to remember. All right, let's see if you can do it. I have a little exercise also for those of you at home. This is on page 65. Page 65. I'm going to hand it out to you, though, here so you can turn it in. All right, so page 65. Exercise number 7. Are we still turned on? Exercise number 7. Okay. All right, so these are going to correspond to the things we just talked about. All right, so you can refer back to that thing. You can refer back, but please do. Don't just go, no, I'm done. Refer back.